Most civilizations do not disappear suddenly. They fade in layers. Warnings are ignored. Corruption becomes ordinary. Truth becomes inconvenient, and eventually, people adapt to the decline so completely, they mistake it for normal life. The Book of 2 Kings is not simply the story of a kingdom falling. It is the anatomy of a civilization dying slowly, while continuing to function on the surface. Welcome to Mysterious Encounters. Today we continue the code of Scripture, and tonight's ancient file reveals one of the darkest patterns hidden in biblical history. What happens when a nation receives warning after warning and still refuses to change direction? Because 2 Kings is not only about destruction, it is about spiritual exhaustion, a people losing connection to their center, one compromise at a time. The time 2 Kings unfolds, the fracture has already spread deep into the kingdom. Idolatry is no longer shocking. Corrupt rulers are no longer unusual. What once would have terrified the people slowly becomes culture. And this may be one of Scripture's most disturbing observations. Human beings can adapt to almost anything, even decline, especially decline that arrives gradually, because when darkness enters in stages, each generation accepts slightly more than the one before it, until eventually, the abnormal feels ordinary. Again and again, prophets rise to speak, warnings are delivered, signs appear. The kingdom is told repeatedly, turn back before the collapse completes itself, but the system continues forward. And this reveals another ancient pattern. The closer a civilization moves toward collapse, the less it wants to hear correction. Truth becomes irritating, conviction becomes offensive, and voices that once protected the people become treated like threats, not because the warnings are false, but because they interrupt comfort. Then something subtle begins to happen. The kingdom starts losing what once covered it. Stability weakens, enemies advance, fear spreads, not all at once, slowly. And Scripture presents this almost like a spiritual law. What a people repeatedly worship eventually shapes what they become vulnerable to, because false altars do not simply change belief, they change alignment. And once a civilization loses alignment with truth, its defenses begin collapsing from the inside outward. Eventually, the unthinkable happens. The people are removed from the land, the kingdom falls, the temple is destroyed, and exile begins. But spiritually, exile means more than displacement. It represents separation from identity, separation from meaning, separation from center. And perhaps this is the deepest warning hidden in 2 Kings. A civilization can continue functioning materially while spiritually becoming homeless. This is why 2 Kings still feels uncomfortably relevant, because modern societies often follow the same progression. Warnings ignored, corruption normalized, truth politicized, comfort defended at all costs. And many people sense it instinctively, a feeling that something foundational is weakening. Even while the machinery of daily life continues moving normally, that is the strange tension of collapsing systems. The surface remains active, while the core quietly empties. 2 Kings was never only about ancient Israel. It was about what happens when decline becomes familiar, when people stop recognizing spiritual erosion because it surrounds them constantly. And Scripture leaves behind a haunting realization. The final stage of collapse is not destruction, it is adaptation. The moment people learn to live comfortably inside the fracture. This was Code of Scripture, 2 Kings, the vanishing kingdom, and the deeper Scripture reveals the pattern. The harder it becomes to believe history only happened once,